Hey everyone, this is part 2 of factoring trinomials. In the last video, I showed you guys how to factor trinomials when a equaled 1. In this video, I'm showing you guys how to factor a trinomial when a is greater than 1. The rules for the sign stay the same. This is a quick recap. You can pause the video or go to my last one where I explain in depth how to get the signs or what they mean, where they go, and whatnot. Let's go ahead and do our first example. So when you're factoring trinomials that have an a value greater than 1, you have to multiply the first term with the third term. So in this case, 2x squared times 12 equals 24x squared. Now, you need to find two numbers that multiply to 24x squared, but also add up to 11x. So let's go ahead and try 2 and 12. So those two numbers give us 24x squared, but do they add up to 11x? Let's try 2x plus 12x. That gives us 14x, so these can't work. Let's try 4x and 6x. Those two numbers give us 24x squared, but do they add up to 11x? 4x plus 6x. Nope, that gives us 10x. Let's try 8x and 3x. So those two numbers give us 24x, but do they add up to 11x? They do. Therefore, our two terms that we will be using are 8x and 3x. Let's go back to our equation. 2x squared plus 11x plus 12. I'm going to rewrite that over here. Now to factor a trinomial when your a value is greater than 1, it's not the same as if your a value was equal to 1. You wouldn't just right away put it in brackets, because that would give you the wrong answer. Instead, you would break this term down into your two values that you got, 8x and 3x. And you would rewrite your new equation. Now using this equation, you're going to break it down into two groups. You're going to group these two together and these two together. Now you're going to take out a greatest common factor. So in this case, the greatest common factor is 2. Because if you take out a 2 from here, you'll end up with 1. And if you take out a 2 from here, you'll end up with 4. However, you also have to look at your x's. Here you have 2 x's, and here you have 1. Therefore, you could take out 1x, and you'll be left with 1x plus 4. So you always write your greatest common factor outside, and in the brackets you write your remaining values. And you'll do the same thing here. You could take out a greatest common factor of 3 from here, and you'll be left with 1. And if you take out 3 from here, you'll be left with 4. You can't take any x's out because there's 1x here and none here. So there's no x's to take out. So since we're going to take out positive 3, we're going to write positive 3 here. And in the brackets, whatever is remaining. So in this case, if we take out a 3 from here, we'll be left with positive 1. And you can't take out any x's because there's no x here to take away from. So the x remains in the bracket. If you factor out 3 from positive 12, you'll be left with positive 4. Now, a trick to see if you're on the right track: these two brackets should have the same values inside of them. Almost always should have the same value inside of them. Now, to get your final answer, you're going to group these two together like this and put them in a bracket. And then since these two are the same, you're only going to write one of them. And there you go. That's your answer. Now remember, to get your final answers, the value of your sign is going to be opposite to what's inside the brackets. So we'll do this one first because it's easier. You basically have x plus 4. So your answer is negative 4. Now over here, we have 2x plus 3. Now what that actually means is x equals 3 over 2. So it's your second number over your first number. However, don't forget, it's a positive on the inside, which means it's a negative on the outside. That's your final answer. This is our second example. So we have to multiply our first term with our third term. Now, don't forget about the negative. You have to include that when you're multiplying your two terms. Okay, so 5x squared times negative 6. That gives us negative 30x squared. So we need to find two values that give us negative 30x squared, but also add up to 7x. Let's go ahead and try 5x and 6x. Now let's not forget about the sign rules. This sign states that the first answer, aka the larger number, has to be a positive. So 6 is a larger number in this case, so 6 holds the positive. This sign tells us that they have to be opposite signs. In this case, 5 would be negative. So negative 5 times positive 6 gives us negative 30x squared. Now, does that add up to positive 7x? Let's try. Negative 5x plus 6x. That gives us 1x. So these values can't work. Let's try 3x and 10x. So like we said, the larger number gets the positive, and the other value will take the opposite sign. So negative 3x multiplied by positive 10x is negative 30x squared. Let's see if this gives us positive 7x. Negative 3x plus 10x. This technically means 10 minus 3. That gives us 7x. So these two values work. Now let's go ahead and rewrite our equation. Like the previous example, you are going to break this value down into your two new values. 5x squared plus 10x minus 3x minus 6. You can put these two in whatever order you'd like. You'll get the same answer. But I like to put the positive first and the negative second, or in some cases, I'll switch it around depending on what the values are. So if you could see here, if I group these two together, it'll be easier for me to factor because 5 is a factor of 10. But if I were to group 5 and 3 together, I can't really factor anything out except for an x. So let's go ahead and take out the greatest common factor of 5x squared plus 10x. So I can take out a 5 and I can take out an x. So I'm going to put that in the front, inside the bracket, whatever is remaining. So it's going to be 1x plus 2. From here, I can see that I start with a negative. I can't have that, so I have to take out a negative. So I'm going to take out a negative, and I can see that I could also take out a 3. So negative 3. I would be left with x plus 2. Remember, if you're taking out a negative, you're going to end up with positive values. Okay, let's go ahead and write this out. So these two get paired together. 5x minus 3. And since these two are the same, you write it once. X plus 2. Okay, now let's write our answers. So this one's easy. It's just x equals negative 2. Now this one is going to be a positive because it's negative on the inside. You're going to take your second number on top and your first number on the bottom. So you'll have x equals positive 3 over 5. And that's your answer. Here is our next example. So what we're going to do first is take out a greatest common factor. Here we have negative 5x squared minus 5x plus 60. When you're solving for trinomials and you have a negative a value, you always want to factor out the negative value so that you're left with a positive equation. So let's go ahead and write our new equation. Remember, when you're factoring out the greatest common factor, you write the greatest common factor on the outside and the remaining equation on the inside. Also remember, when you factor out a specific sign, the signs inside the new equation turn into their opposing signs. So as you can see here, we're left with an equation that has a value of 1. So you can go ahead and use the method from the last video. So let's go ahead and find two values that multiply to negative 12, but also add up to positive 1. Let's go ahead and do 3 times 4. Now, our rule states that the first term or the first value has to be positive, and the first value is always the number that's the largest. So 4 has to be positive. And our second sign is negative, so that tells us that the other number has to be the opposite sign from the first one, so it has to be negative. So let's go ahead and do negative 3 plus 4. That gives us positive 1. So let's draw our brackets and write our answers in. X minus 3 and x plus 4. Let's go ahead and write our answers. X equals positive 3 and x equals negative 4. Let's go ahead and do one more example. In this equation, we have 4x cubed plus 10x squared minus 6x. So we can see here that our greatest common factor would be 2x. Let's put that on the outside and write our new equation. Okay, so let's multiply our first term with our third term. We get negative 6x squared. Now we have to find two values that multiply to negative 6x squared, but also add up to 5x. Let's try 6x and 1x. Now our first sign is positive, so our larger number has to be a positive. And our second sign is negative, so our second number has to be the opposite sign of the first number. Now let's add 6x plus negative 1x. That gives us 6x minus 1x, which gives us positive 5x. So this works. We have to rewrite our equation. And break the second term down into our two new values. Let's go ahead and factor out from the first group. We can take out a 2x. We'll be left with x plus 3. Now from here, we could take out a negative 1. And we would be left with x plus 3. So our answer is 2x minus 1 x plus 3. Remember that you group these two together, and if these two are the same, you write it out once. So our final answer for our x value is x equals 0 for that, x equals positive 1 over 2 for this bracket, and finally x equals negative 3 for this bracket. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comment section below. And if you have any concepts that you would like me to go over, again, ask me in the comments and I will make a video on them. Have a great day, guys.